What's up everyone, it's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and if you've watching this channel you know that I'm a pretty harsh critic of the many failings of the Nintendo Switch. Now there are of course significant benefits to the Nintendo Switch. It's done so much right and I love playing mine whenever I get a chance. To hell, it's pretty much the main console I've been playing the last couple of months. Anyway, naturally Nintendo have done some questionable stuff and haven't done some basic stuff, and there's big issues regarding all of that. One of them I want to talk about more here today, and I think it's very fitting because a very close upcoming title is going to be very telling in that situation. So what are we talking about anyway? Well, mostly I'm talking about the Nintendo Switch online subscription service. If you're not familiar with what that is, basically as with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, you're now, or at least soon, going to be expected to pay to play online for Nintendo Switch games. So it doesn't come as much of a surprise considering the fact that, well, other companies can make bank off it, so Nintendo, albeit slightly behind, are going to want to try catch up and make bank on it. Now there's some questionable stuff out there for the moment. First off, this has been delayed. Originally it was not launched on Nintendo Switch at the actual launch of the console. So when March 3rd came around, this paid online subscription service was not available, and they offered several months of the service for free. They had eventually planned to roll it out towards the end of 2017 until, that's when the payment and the subscription service would start. That was pushed back and delayed to some point next year. So it's going to be 2018 as it is at the moment, which within itself is pretty worrying for the whole subscription service. There are one or two, we'll call them positives at the moment, but these positives don't come without negatives. And what are they? Well, first off, the subscription service is going to be relatively cheap. Now, what I mean by that is it's going to be roughly 1/3 of the cost of competitors' subscription services. So when you look at the PlayStation Plus and the Xbox Live prices, you're only going to be paying €20 for a year if you subscribe for the 1 year at a time, because as with all these services, the longer your subscription you go for at once, the cheaper it is. So the 1 year subscription will only be €20, which is considerably cheaper than what Sony and Microsoft offer. So why is that possibly a bad thing? Well, look at it this way. The best way you can look at it is, if they're only charging €20 for something for a year, how good is it actually going to be? Or more specifically, how bad could this be? But I'll get more into that part in a little bit more in detail now in a moment. I want to talk about something else real quick that also factors into the price and the possible good and possible negative. So Nintendo are also going to be doing this service that's built into your online subscription price, that they will give you access to one game every month. And it will be a NES game or a SNES game. Well, originally it was planned as a NES game or a NES game or a SNES game. Then they changed it after the service was announced to be changed, because originally you were going to lose access to the game. So basically, let's just say they'd give you Super Mario Bros. 1 in January. You could play it in January for free the entire time, and then they would take that away from you and they would give you, say, Super Mario Bros. 2 in February, and then the same deal that would go away and you'd get Super Mario Bros. 3 in March. And that was the original plan. Now this plan was changed and it's now going to act kind of like an Xbox Live Games with Gold or a PlayStation Plus service. I can't remember what the games with PlayStation Plus service is called, but basically you now have access to any game that was made available to you through this program, as long as you maintain the subscription. So I suppose a lot of people have been calling it a Netflix style service. So that you look at it that way, basically. So that was one change that was put in on there as well. But however, when it was changed and they announced that you would keep access to the previous ones, they also said, oh yeah, it'll be NES games. We're going to explore the possibility of giving you SNES games in the future. So that was a whole big other question mark too. But like these other programs with Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus, you have to look at the price of what they're giving you. So €20 for the year, as well as the stuff we talked about a moment ago that we'll get into more detail now in a second. But you have to look at it. Are they doing this to justify the cost? This will also factor into something I'm going to say in a minute. But you look at it this way: a NES game on the Wii U or 3DS eShop or Virtual Console, I believe it's €6. A SNES game, I think, is €8 or €9, with the exception of Earthbound, which is a tenner. But the point is, are they only giving you that to kind of recoup the cost, in a sense? Now, what I mean by that is, I mean, how are you going to recoup the cost when, you could be buying these games separately and more expensively and giving Nintendo more money? The point is, if you're getting so very little to nothing from the actual online subscription service, that this is going to try justify the price for you, is that could potentially be what they're doing. So I mentioned that thing that we're going to talk about in more detail. Well, I would say later, but that later is now. So what is the big crux of all of this? Well, as it stands at the moment, it's going to be what the quality of this service is and what Nintendo are going to offer through this subscription service in the case when it comes to online multiplayer. Now, we all know there is the smartphone app, which is coming out on the 21st of July as well. It's going to be out next week, at the end of next week. That will tie in once again to something I'm just about to say in a second. But the big thing is that this app, which is considered a hindrance by many people and very archaic in design because of its features, is required for proper matchmaking in the case of, say, friends lists and, creating parties and lobbies. It's very archaic. This is something that hasn't been a problem on consoles since 2004. And this is something that hasn't been a problem on PCs since the 90s. So the point I'm trying to make is that this app is going to be free until the subscription service starts, and then it will be updated and you'll have all the extra features and all that will become available through the paid subscription service. So that aside, as well as the whole retro game monthly subscription service aside, the big thing is, what are Nintendo going to do quality wise, server and connectivity quality wise? Because remember, this is €20 a year. Not everyone is going to pay for this service. This is a significantly cheaper subscription than other companies offer. And these other companies, well, depending on which way you look at it, these other companies can invest more money into this without losing, essentially. Without losing money. And sometimes even they still struggle with it. The PlayStation Plus and the PlayStation 4 network is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. No matter if you have it for free or if you have an actual PlayStation Plus, the online PlayStation Network service is pretty bad. Now, the Microsoft one is considerably better. Now, it's not perfect. It still has an issue now and again. But the Microsoft Xbox Live service is considerably better. And when you look at it in a weird spectrum, the PC services for almost everything are better and they're all free. But that's beside the point. We're looking at consoles here, or more specifically, paid subscription services and Nintendo. So what do you think Nintendo can offer, and what quality and service can they deliver to us for $20 a year? Roughly 1/3 of the cost of what other companies are charging. So that's a big question as well. Something that actually has evidence against it as it is at the moment. And what I mean by that is, there's a bunch of games, okay? We all know there's a bunch of games for Nintendo Switch with online play. For the demonstration purposes I'm about to use for this little part of the video, I'm going to go with one first-party Nintendo game and one third-party Nintendo game. So that way it's kind of even and balanced, so you get my point. Now, first off, we'll look at the third-party games. So let's look at a game I play on the regular, Ultra Street Fighter 2, made by Capcom, so it is a third-party game. And when you look at this game uses peer-to-peer connections. What that means, basically, is that either myself or whoever I'm playing against is hosting the game on their Nintendo Switch, and one person is connecting directly to the other person's Nintendo Switch through the internet using no service or quality or anything provided by Capcom and or Nintendo. So that's how this works, essentially. That's what a peer-to-peer service is. One person is hosting the actual game on their device, and the other person or people playing are connecting directly through the internet to that person and through their Switch. The game is occurring on their Switch, and then the information is being sent back and forth. Now, there's a problem with peer-to-peer. It generally is a bit more laggy, because it's not a centralized thing. When you look at it, say I'm playing a game with dedicated servers in Europe, they're going to be placed somewhere in Europe, so roughly everyone has a good relative distance to the actual server, and it's kind of in a centralized location, and it doesn't too much depend on an individual person's internet. And there's also no additional cost for peer-to-peer services because you don't have to hire servers or data centers or rent out servers or anything like that, because all that stuff is handled on the local Nintendo Switches or the local consoles or PCs in general, but for this case Nintendo Switch. So it's actually hosted on the Switch. You're not paying or renting or doing anything along the transfer path from one person playing to the other, so there's no extra overhead or no anything you have to worry about in there, so there's no additional cost. And as I explained the pros and cons of peer-to-peer just there, it's generally considered the inferior way of playing an online game. So, because we've already looked at a third-party game, let's look at a first-party game, an existing first-party game. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is obviously a high-profile first-party Nintendo game. This game also uses peer-to-peer connections. So in the same way, Nintendo is not providing any service or any hardware or any rental or any data center or any dedicated server or anything like that when you're playing on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe online. You're literally connecting through the internet directly to another person's Switch, and the game is running on either your Switch or their Switch, and it's being sent back and forth between all the users in there. Again, this can lead to lag and rubber banding issues and just bad connections overall because of multiple different things. The location in the world, people's ISPs, people's routing, whatever it is. So generally, again, not considered the best way to play. And once again, in a peer-to-peer environment, these companies, be it Nintendo, Capcom, Microsoft, Activision, Sony, whoever, they provide literally nothing for you. It's all done for free for no expense. No expense from them, and I say for free because they don't have to do anything. And yes, let's look at the last part, and this is the bit I stressed at the very start of the video, that the upcoming relative part that all ties into this, that's going to be very telling about it. And I believe that is going to be Splatoon 2. For the simple reason is Splatoon 2 is out at the end of next week, and yes, it's a big, naturally online game, because, well, I'm pretty sure Splatoon is like almost online only when you think about it. So because of all the stuff in Splatoon 2 and its big online multiplayer focus, is it going to be the same case? Are we going to have peer-to-peer servers? Are we going to have peer-to-peer servers when the actual service rolls out next year at some point? It's going to be a bit hard to know for that in particular, for the simple reason is the service is 6+ months off, maybe even close to a year, pending no delays. So when you look at all of the stuff we have so far and what we know and don't know about the upcoming service, it's not looking good. So I think it's Splatoon 2 with its huge online multiplayer focus. I think that's going to be the benchmark, the measuring stick for the whole thing at the moment. Because if a game like that is going to use peer-to-peer, you know, what's going to happen down the line? Now, what I mean by that is every game, once the actual online service comes out, is every game still going to use peer-to-peer and Nintendo offer no dedicated servers? In which case, what are we paying for? I say what are we paying for, but that's hypothetical. What if I was to actually pay for it? But the point is, you know, what are people paying for? Because if it costs them literally nothing to run peer-to-peer because they don't do anything. So what would we be paying for? And is this where the whole justification with the whole retro gaming Netflix-like service comes in? Because that wouldn't be worth it to me. I'd rather just buy the game and play for eternity. Now yes, for all we know, Splatoon 2 could possibly have dedicated servers when all these multiplayer games start launching after or at the start of the subscription service. Maybe from then on, games will be launching with dedicated servers. Maybe Nintendo will have dedicated servers. For all we know, these games like Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, maybe once this service rolls out, they'll be patched to connect to dedicated servers. There's still a good bit of information up in the air at the moment, but the problem is, at the moment, everything is looking bad. and I still want to remain kind of optimistic about it. Nintendo has a bad track record with online. Nintendo has a bad history with some of their practices and how far behind they are. So it's it's going to be really hard to remain optimistic at this point. But we'll see how it goes. I think Splatoon 2 is going to be very interesting when it comes to what type of online infrastructure it uses, because of the huge online multiplayer focus of the game. I think it's going to be a key thing to see. Now, it is entirely possible that none of these games will have dedicated servers, because maybe the service just isn't up and running yet. Maybe it's literally not ready in any way, shape, or form to have even one game's servers run on it. So we'll see how it goes. These games could all be patched to get online multiplayer on dedicated servers once the service starts. We've got about a year to find out. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully this turns out to be a decent service. But so far, I feel like I have justified cause to be worried, as I've outlined in this video. What do you think is going to be the deal with the Nintendo Switch online server situation? Do you not like paying for online games? Do you not like paying for games unless they have dedicated servers? Do you hate peer-to-peer? Do you think it's absolutely abhorrent that they would try charge us for a peer-to-peer service, which, to be honest, is absolutely justified, that you should be outraged at that? Or do you think Splatoon 2 is going to be, what do you think is going to be the measuring stick for this? Do you think Splatoon 2 will have dedicated servers, peer-to-peer? Do you think these games will be patched in to have dedicated servers down the line? Do you think Nintendo will provide dedicated servers? Or after the service is released, do you think the games will start launching with them? Wow, that was a lot of extra stuff to cover there. Let me know all of that in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.